Welcome to the Brigham Young University Family History Library webinar series. My name is Braden Knudsen. I'll be your host for this webinar today. Thank you for joining us. We would like to ask you to answer a couple of our polls we've got down here at the bottom of the screen as we get going through some of our announcements. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, March 14th at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that webinar will be by James Tanner. He'll be go over some of the new apps and programs from RootsTech, so that'll be a really good one to come and watch for. So hope to see you then. Also, if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, feel free to email us at fhl_webinars.byu.edu, and we'll try to get any suggested topics incorporated into the rotation and try to get those going for you. It'll be good. So today we'll be pleased to hear from Kathryn Grant, who will be giving a presentation titled Deep Dive, FamilySearch.org. After years on the sidelines, Kathryn started her family history and discovered a new passion. Her specialty is mentoring new family historians and helping them find success, and maybe even avoid some of the mistakes she's made. Kathryn teaches family history classes at the BYU Family History Library and Riverton Family Search Library. She has also written a series for the Nauvoo Times on family history. She currently works for the LDS Church as a technical writer and business analyst. When she's not doing family history, she also enjoys good books, uplifting music, and fresh raspberries. So we will turn the time over to Kathryn now, and as she gets her screen loaded, remind you that we have a comments box in the upper right-hand corner and a questions box in the lower right-hand corner. Any questions during the presentation, we'll make sure that those get answered by the end of the presentation. So thank you very much. We'll turn the
Great.
time over to
Thank you
Kathryn.
so much, Braden. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's just a delight to be with you. We are going to talk about FamilySearch, the FamilySearch website, and we're going to take a pretty in-depth look at the website. And so I wanted to make a comment, or rather give some advice maybe at the beginning in case this is helpful to you. We're going to be covering a lot of detail, and so I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed with this. So I guess my advice would be to sit back and relax. Don't feel like you have to remember everything. You'll become familiar with the features, and just knowing that they exist will be a starting point for you to look for more information later if you want to. And then also, this webinar is recorded, and so you'll be able to review the recording later if you want to be refreshed on anything or get more detail. So just sit back and relax and enjoy the ride, and I'm so grateful that you're with us today. So I wanted to start out by distinguishing between two ways that the term family search is used, and this does cause confusion sometimes. And so first of all, when we talk about family search, one thing we're talking about is an organization that's sponsored by the LDS Church. It actually is the largest genealogy organization in the world. Its mission is to connect families across generations. And so that, for those of us who are LDS, that means on both sides of the veil. We're making connections between our family on earth and our family who has already gone beyond. You can read more about FamilySearch's mission at familysearch.org/about, and I would recommend taking a minute or two to do that. There's some really cool stuff on this page that will give you more of an appreciation for what FamilySearch, the organization, is all about. So what is FamilySearch.org? And again, the trouble is sometimes we just say Family Search and it's not clear whether we're referring to the organization or the website, but FamilySearch.org is a website run by FamilySearch, the organization. In this webinar, I'll try to be careful to use FamilySearch.org when I'm talking about the website and just FamilySearch when I'm referring to the organization. So here's a look at what we're going to be covering in our deep dive today. First of all, we are going to cover the FamilySearch personalized homepage. And this is fairly new, and it's got a lot of cool stuff on it that depends on you being logged in. We're also going to talk about the main sections of the website, so family tree, memories, search, indexing, and the temple page just briefly. And each of those, to be honest, deserve their own webinar. And so we're not going deep into those. We're going to let you know that they exist, of course, and cover some of the basic concepts about them. But I'll also give references where you can get more information on these, again, just because there's so much to each section and they really do deserve, and in most cases have, their own webinars. We're also going to be talking about account settings, which interestingly enough, these settings are accessed by clicking your name. And that is news to a lot of people because you see your name there and don't necessarily think that there would be options under it. And then finally, we will be talking about messages, volunteer, and get help, those other top menu options. And then actually, that wasn't final, was it? We've got two more things. We're going to be talking just briefly about Family Search partners because sometimes I've noticed that it's a challenge to tell whether you're on a Family Search site or whether you're on a partner site. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then finally, we'll have as a couple of bonus tips. We'll give you some shortcut URLs and also explain how to send feedback to Family Search, the organization. So let's go ahead and get started. One thing I wanted to mention about the menu here that has the main options on it, if you click the menu option, the one that is highlighted in green, as you hover over it, or excuse me, if you click it, you're going to go straight to the first option of the drop down. If you want to go to something other than the first option, then you just want to hover your mouse over the button and then it will give you the drop down and you can select whichever you want. So again, if you know you want the first option, you can just click the button without bringing up the drop-down menu. But if you want to see the drop-down menu, go ahead and hover over that button and you'll get a list of options that you can choose. Okay, here is the home page before signing in. It's just a generic page basically that gives you different options on the Family Search website. You can click on any of these options without signing in, but most of them at some point will ask you to sign in to give you the full functionality that's available on that section of the website. Here is what the home page looks like after you've signed in. And again, this is a pretty recent thing, and I think Family Search has done an amazing job with this, of giving you options that we didn't have access to before and putting them all in one place, or didn't have easy access to before, I should say. So let's take a look at some of the main sections of the personalized home page, again, that are available to you after you've logged in. First of all, in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see some featured items. If any of you have looked at this recently, like before Roots Tech, you notice that they had an announcement about Roots Tech, and here we see one where they're saying that I've got an ancestor listed on a special page. So they'll just do different features that change pretty frequently. And if you want to navigate between the different features, they've usually got somewhere, maybe 2 to 4 different features in this section. So you can just click previous and next to move between the different features, kind of cycle through them. You also, on the right-hand side, have a list of recommended tasks. And I love this because, for instance, this one tells you, hey, we think that we've found a record that might be about this ancestor. So you can either click the ancestor's name to go straight to that record, or if you're pretty sure that this is about the ancestor or you want to just compare it, you can click Review and Attach and you get the screen that allows you to compare the information in Family Tree with the information on the record, and you can decide if that record really applies to the person. And so that's a quick and easy way of attaching a source. I mean, it's just how much easier could it be, right? It's just right there on the page for you. Also, you can cycle through the hints in the same way by clicking the previous and next buttons. Now here is a section that is exciting to a lot of people. This one displays memories that have been added by other people to people on your family tree. So this is exciting for two reasons. One is that you may see memories, and by memories I'm using the Family Search term, which refers to photos, documents, stories, and audio files. So you may see memories about a person that you didn't know existed, which is so exciting to see something new to have that, that provides information about your family. The other reason this is so exciting is that it tells you who contributed the memory. And just the other day, I found a family member, a cousin that I didn't know existed. I think she was, oh gosh, maybe a second cousin twice removed or something. So it wasn't a first, an immediate first cousin, but it was definitely a member of my family, and I didn't know her before. And so this is a great way to make connections with other people who are working on your family lines and who probably know some of the same people you know and can share information with you. Finally, over here on the left-hand side, we've got a list of recently viewed ancestors. And if you remember, for those of you who are familiar, if you go into Family Tree, and if I can't do it on a slide, of course, but if I were in Family Tree and I clicked this, then I'd get this little menu below, and one of the options is tree and the other is person. And clicking those gives me a list of recently viewed people. Well, this is the same thing here. It just doesn't show the whole number of people. Those menu items up here will show up to 50 people. This one generally shows, like, I don't know, up to 5 or something at a time, but you can click the See More button if you want to see more recently viewed ancestors. So that's a nice convenient way to pop back to somebody that you've just recently been working on. And there's a few other things at the bottom of the page. There's this to-do list where you can jot notes about things that you want to remember to do, maybe next time you come back to the site, and a couple of other things that change from time to time. So I would recommend going to this home page and just checking it out and seeing the different features that are on here and that will help you with your family history. Okay, now we are to the 5 main sections of the FamilySearch website. The first one is Family Tree, and this is the shared family tree. The reason that I mention that it's shared is that this is something that tends to be confusing for people, especially if they're new to Family Tree and if they have experience on other sites like Ancestry or MyHeritage. In Ancestry, as an example, you can create your personal family tree. If your cousin goes in and creates a personal family tree and it's got some of the same people on it as your family tree, that doesn't matter. Everybody can have whoever they want on their family tree because they're all separate. But Family Tree is different. The goal of Family Tree is to build a complete tree of the world's population, basically. That's the ultimate goal. So we're trying to have one complete, accurate record for every person who's ever lived on the earth, linked to other records by correct relationships. And so people don't have an individual tree in Family Tree. When I look at my ancestor in Family Tree, suppose that you're my cousin, and you look at that same ancestor, we are seeing exactly the same thing. We're not seeing two different ancestors or two different records. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working in Family Tree, is any change that you make affects every other user because they see all the same changes that you make. The exception to that, of course, is living people. For privacy reasons, only you can see living people on your family tree, but anybody who's deceased, everybody in Family Tree sees the exact same record. So Family Tree basically has 2 different views. One we would call the tree view or the pedigree view, and that is a way of seeing multiple generations of families. There's 4 different types of tree views. There's this pedigree view. There's a portrait view, which is basically just going from top to bottom instead of side to side. There's the fan chart, which happens to be my personal favorite. Maybe it's because of the colors. I just love it. And then there's also descendancy view. But they basically are all a way to look at multiple generations of your family at a time. Then there are person pages or detail pages. If you click a person's name, you get a summary card, and then if you click the name again, you get the person page for that person. And that page displays all the details such as life events and sources and any discussions that are attached to that person and so forth. So as I mentioned before, both of these deserve their own webinar, and as it happens, we are having webinars on these coming up in about 2 weeks. So if this is interesting to you, if you'd like to do deep dives on either the tree view or on the person page, please join us for these webinars, and the details on those are listed on the BYU webinar page. Okay, memories is the next section, and this is one that is just so fun for people. This, you can see memories that both you have contributed and that other people have contributed. And so on the memories page, as I mentioned earlier, there's 4 basic types of memories that you can add. You can add digital photos, and if you have paper photos, you can scan them and then upload them. You can also upload documents. Now, these would probably be things like a PDF family history that you happen to have in your possession, or maybe something that you've typed into Microsoft Word. So you can upload documents there. But suppose that you don't have a document or you don't really want to upload it, you just want the simplicity of putting it right in Family Tree. Well, you can create a story. And the story, when you click that option, you just get a form where you can type directly on the screen and then save it. So it kind of acts like a word processor right in FamilySearch. And then finally, you've got audio recordings. And for those of you who may have the Memories app on your Android or on your iPhone, you can record somebody right on your mobile device and then enter a PID and upload that immediately to Family Tree. It's really, really slick. So if you have a mobile device, I would recommend checking out the FamilySearch apps that allow you to record and upload memories for people. And this webinar on adding memories is actually already on the site. This is a past webinar. So if you'd like more information on how the whole memories thing works on FamilySearch.org, I would encourage you to check out this webinar. Okay, now we come to another one of my favorites on the website, and that is the search area, and it's basically allowing you to search historical records. A lot of you might be familiar with this, and especially if you have done indexing at all, you have contributed to the historical records on this site. So 3 cheers for anybody who's done indexing. That is a wonderful way to make source records available that give us information about our ancestors and not only allow us to make sure that their records are accurate in Family Tree, but also to add people who are missing from Family Tree. So once again, there is a whole webinar on this. It's got so many great features to it. This is also a past webinar, so I would encourage you to go to the webinar page and click on or look for the webinar entitled Getting the Most from the Search Function on FamilySearch. Indexing, I just gave 3 cheers for indexing. If you click the indexing site or indexing button, excuse me, you go to the indexing homepage. Here, I'm not mentioning a webinar on this one because pretty much everything you need to know about indexing is right here. And so you can take indexing for a test drive down here. They've got a great getting started, some presentations on that. Find your project, lots of answers on the help section. One thing that is really awesome about this, maybe many of you have already used the desktop application for indexing, and it is still great. It's not going away anytime soon that I've heard. I've heard that for the foreseeable future, it's still going to be around. But if you'd like to try the web version of indexing, they've just recently, within the last couple of months, FamilySearch, the organization, has rolled out this new web indexing application. So now you can do your web indexing just right in your browser. You don't have to bring up a desktop application if you don't want to. So I would encourage you to take that for a spin. Check that out and see how you like it. Give feedback on it. It's still pretty new, and so I'm sure they would appreciate any feedback that you have on what you might like to see, what you might like to see changed, that kind of thing. So check out indexing. It is such a great way to move family history work forward. Now, I purposely didn't put the temple screen up here because I've gotten the impression from talking with people at FamilySearch that this is treated with a great deal of sacredness, and anything that has to do with the temple generally requires a login with your LDS account. These webinars do not require logins. So we won't display a picture of the temple screen here, but just to let you know, as probably many of you do already know, on your temple reservation list, you will see all the names that you have reserved. You'll be able to print temple cards for any of those names, and you're able to share those names with others. There's some options that allow you to do that. And I would just offer, if any of you have questions about that, my email address appears at the end of this presentation, at this webinar, and please do feel free to send me an email and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have. So that's just a brief mention of the temple page. So now let's get into the account settings. This is an area that a lot of people I find are surprised by because you just don't expect to click on your name necessarily and get account settings. So what are the options that we have under the account settings uh, menu? The first option is your account, and that's basically, okay, those are all the options. Sorry, forgot I had a circle around that. So we're going to look at the account settings, and they will allow you to specify, for instance, how you want your name to display and if you want certain information to be public. So you can choose to display your name or by checking this box, or if you prefer not to, if there's some reason why that's a concern to you or your privacy is a concern, then just uncheck that and then people will not be able to see your full name. I believe what they see is your contact name, which you can make that anything that you want, well, within reason, of course, but any kind of user type name. And then people will only see that. They won't see your real name, but they would be able to send you a message, and we'll talk about how to send messages later. So I personally didn't have a problem with letting my full name be seen, but I was a little more antsy about my birth date, as many of you may be, just because of, concerns with privacy and possible identity theft. We always hope it won't happen, but, I think for me, better safe than sorry. So I chose not to make my birth date public. And that's totally up to you. It just depends on how you feel about making that public or not. Your membership record shows up on this page. That's for those of you who are LDS, if you're wondering where to get that for your tithing slip, this is one place. And then down here we've got the helper number. If you have ever been asked for your helper number, or if you are a consultant and you want to help people in your ward, this is how you can tell them to find it. It's right here. They click settings and then it's on the account page near the bottom. Normally your helper number will be the last 5 digits of your membership record number. However, you're welcome to change it and you do that right here. So you can just erase this and you can replace it with something completely different. As I did here, this is actually not my real membership number, but since this is a public webinar, I made up a fake one. So that's the account tab or account page or menu, whatever you'd want to call it, on settings. Let's take a look at contact. So the contact one, this allows you to display your contact name. And again, this is what will show up if you chose not to have your full name visible. You also can indicate your email here, and I've chosen to make that public just because I've felt the frustration, as perhaps you have in the past, of seeing a contributor on FamilySearch and not being able to contact them. And of course that was before the message function rolled out, which we'll be talking about later. But still, as far as email, anybody could actually get this pretty easily on the internet for me. So making it public in Family Tree, I didn't consider that a big risk. I was a little more leery about making my phone numbers public, and so I didn't choose to make those public and my address. But there's many people who are totally fine with that. So you have complete control over what you make public and what you don't make public on this screen. Notifications. This is a fun page that lets you decide what kind of news you want to receive from FamilySearch. Or something that's worth highlighting on this page is that you can choose to receive weekly updates to ancestors that you're, quote, watching. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the watch feature, we're going to talk about that in the webinar on the person page coming up in 2 weeks. But just as a quick kind of summary of that, in Family Tree, if you're looking at somebody's summary card, or if you're looking at their person page, you're going to see a star near their name. If you click that star and it turns dark, you're telling Family Tree, I want to be notified whenever anybody makes a change to this person's record in Family Tree. all the people you're watching show up here on your watch list. So you can both you can view people there, and you can also remove them from the watch list there on the list. And so here you can say, yes, I do want to be notified in a weekly email every time somebody makes a change to somebody that I'm watching. When would you use that? Well, mostly, I find on most of my people, it's not a problem. The information stays pretty stable. But once in a while, there's a person record in Family Tree where somebody is maybe convinced that because of a personal history or a website or something, that some information that is shown in historical records is not right. And so they will change it, sometimes not based on maybe as solid of evidence as we would wish. And so setting a watch on that person allows you to be notified if somebody, for instance, removes a source or changes a birth date or something like that. So that way you can catch errors before they last too long. And also, if you see that somebody's made a change and you don't feel that that's necessarily correct, you can contact that person and talk it over with them and hopefully come to a good conclusion. I remember reading a blog post about a lady who had this happen to her. And they went back and forth. She would make a change, and she'd come in a few days later, and somebody else had changed it back, and she'd change it because she had sources, multiple sources that indicated what she felt was right, and so she'd change it back and forth, back and forth. Well, finally, she got in touch with a person, and I think she probably wished later that she'd maybe got in touch with them sooner, but she said to them, "Have you taken a look at the sources?" And she was polite about it. And come to find out that the other person had not really realized that there were sources to look at. I don't know why, but she, maybe she was new or something. But in any event, she had not realized that there were sources that gave some pretty good indications that the information she kept putting in was not quite accurate. And so once they had this discussion, the woman who kept changing it admitted that her source was probably, I think her source was just a random family history that didn't have any sources. And so she admitted that probably the historical records were better sources, and she stopped making changes. So this is a great way to be notified and to collaborate with people and to come to an understanding of what the best data is for a person's family tree record. Okay, preferences allows you, and this is a great thing, if you are, for instance, a consultant and maybe you do public presentations where it's not appropriate to show LDS temple information, you can unclick this box and then the temple option up here disappears, and also on the summary card, the temple information disappears and the ordinance tab disappears on the person page. So that's just a quick way of keeping that information private and sacred in situations where it's, probably shouldn't be shown to people, in community settings and that kind of thing. And then also, this is really cool. Normally, the default is that you start with yourself on your family tree. So you're the first person there on the tree, if it's the typical view, the traditional view on the left-hand side. If I've heard people say, well, I already know about me. I don't need to see me on the tree, kind of joking around. So if you want to start with somebody else, you just enter their PID in here, their ID number, and then save it. And then whenever you go into Family Tree, you're going to see this person in the root position rather than yourself. So that's just kind of a fun option if you don't want to be seeing yourself at the root of the tree. And then finally, for those of you who have used any of the church's free accounts with, say, Find My Past or Ancestry, or you've used a wonderful application like Pazilla or TreeSeek, then they always ask you at the beginning if you would give them access to your family tree information. And if you say yes, then they show up here on this page. And so if at any time you decide that you don't want them to have access to your information and you're not going to use them as an application anymore, you just click Revoke Access, and then that removes. They're not allowed to see your personal information in your tree anymore, and they disappear from this list. Now, on this side, people you've given permission to help you in Family Search. Again, this is something that's covered in another webinar, so I'll just touch on it briefly here. But recently, if you're a consultant, you may be familiar with the new consultant dashboard, and that allows you to request permission from friends and members of your ward to use their helper number and see their family tree, except you can do it without actually getting the helper number. That's all done behind the scenes. So from the consultant dashboard, you make a request to somebody to quote help them, and once they give permission, then this shows up on their account settings so they can see who they gave permission to quote help them. If they ever decide they don't want to be helped anymore, they just do revoke access here. And if you've given permission to somebody to help you, and then at some point in the future it becomes, not appropriate for whatever reason, this is where you would revoke that access. Other top menu options: Messages, Volunteer, and Get Help. And we'll talk about each of those and especially a little more detail about Get Help. So Messages is the long-awaited messaging system. It used to be, and this was one of the top complaints that FamilySearch got, was that if somebody, if you got into a tug of war with somebody on a person page and they chose not to share their email address, there was simply no way to contact them. And so that resulted in frustration for a lot of users because they wanted to contact these people and work things out, but weren't able to. So FamilySearch, in some countries of the world, I understand it's actually illegal to require people to show their email addresses. So you cannot, FamilySearch, the solution was not for FamilySearch to force everybody to show their email. Instead, they developed this internal messaging system that just shows the username, or the contact name rather, and allows you to just click a link and send a message to a person without having to know their email address. So here's an interesting thing. If a person has messages that haven't been read, which I didn't when I took this screenshot, but if I had the message, there would have been a little circle here with a number in it, and it would show the number of unread messages. The reason I mention that is that I've had a friend who got a message and didn't realize what that number was, and so she didn't answer the message for like 4 months or something, simply because she didn't know. So for those of you who are consultants, spread the word that if you have a number there, that means you have unread messages and somebody is trying to get in touch with you. So when you click the message option here, you get a drop-down menu. What it shows is your most recent messages from other FamilySearch users. If you don't see a message that you want, maybe you want to review an older message, you just click Show All, and that takes you to your inbox, and you're able to see all the messages that you've ever received in the messaging system, except those that you have deleted, of course. So that is a really great feature for getting in touch with people. How you find the way to get in touch with people is if you click on any piece of information on the person page or the person's name in the changelog, then and there's a webinar on that too, the changelog. So if you click on a person's name, you will get a little pop-up that lets you either email them if they've chosen to share their email, or either way, their name will show there and you click the name and you get a screen that allows you to share a message. So that's how you use the messaging function. Okay, volunteer. This is a great way to find opportunities to help move family history work forward. You see that indexing is right there front and center, so you can volunteer to do indexing, but there's other opportunities too. And so if you have even a few extra hours a week, you might consider serving as a family history missionary. You don't have to necessarily go outside of your home to do that. Some callings do require you to go, for instance, to a FamilySearch library or so forth, but there's some that you can do right in the comfort of your own home. So I would say check that out. Click on these options if you click volunteer, get to this page and click on any of these options. See if there's something that interests you. And the great thing about that is you get a lot of satisfaction from this kind of volunteering, both, I guess, in a personal level and also on a spiritual level. A lot of blessings come, I think, from volunteering and from helping other people move forward in their family history. Get help. This is maybe one of the least appreciated areas of the website. I think people are starting to use it more, but I find that a lot of people still are not maybe very familiar with it. So let's take a look at some of the options that are available to you when you click Get Help. So when you click Get Help, or actually I believe it's when you click the arrow, you're going to get this little pop-down menu. You can search Get Help by typing something directly in this box and then clicking the search icon, but you can also navigate to any of these other options that provide help for you in doing your family history. So the Help Center, and we're going to talk about that in more detail in a minute, that takes you straight to the kind of gateway page for the Help Center where you can perform searches and see help articles. Getting started takes you to a page with information, especially for somebody who's new to Family Search and new to family history. Contact Us takes you to a page that for LDS users, if you're logged in, that will actually show your family history consultants in your ward, your temple and family history consultants based on your member information. So that's a great way to contact them. This contact page also allows you to contact support. It gives you the phone number, it gives you an option for chat, and it also gives you an option to send in a message to Family Search. And that's particularly if you need help with an item like missing ordinances, for instance, or some error that doesn't look right on your tree, that kind of thing. The next option that is just wonderful is the Learning Center, and this is an area of the website that offers free courses in almost any genealogical topic you can think of. There's everything from beginning to advanced, place research, for instance, on different countries. There's methodology on how to research. There's a presentation on how to resolve duplicates. There's all kinds of things to help you. And again, they're all free. You just go there, you find what you're interested in, click on it, and you get started. We mentioned earlier that you can contact Family Search by the Contact Us link, and you can submit a request for support. They call those cases. And so once someone has opened a case in support for you, then it shows up here under My Cases. You can click that and you see a list of all your open and closed cases. So that's an easy way to see the progress of open cases. Or also, once in a while, I have remembered a past case and I've wanted to refresh myself on the details of it. So that's another reason that I've gone into the My Cases page to look at that. You can also reach the Research Wiki from here. You can reach the What's New blog from here, and you can help others from here. So if you're a family history consultant, this is a place, family history, no, the new name, Temple and Family History Consultant. If that is your calling, you can click Help Others here, and then you can enter the helper number, and then you get to see the person's tree and family tree as they would see it. And that is a great feature for helping people. So I mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit more about the Help Center. When you click this link, this is the page that you get. The top option lets you just search by search terms. You're going to get better results if you search with one or two words rather than if you search with a sentence or a long phrase. So for instance, if you wanted to search for photos, I wouldn't put in something like, how can I take a photo or how can I scan a photo? That tends to not give you as good of results, but if you just put in photo or photos, you will probably get better results. So that's one way to search. But then another way to search is by clicking these kind of filter items. So for instance, if you know you want to see things about family tree, just click that icon, or memories, click that. So each of these will take you to Help Center articles that are specifically on these topics. When you get the list of results in the Help Center, you'll see that they're divided into three sections. The first section is knowledge base articles. And by knowledge base, we mean basically those are articles that help you solve a problem or learn how to use a function. Further on down the page, you'll see a link for lessons, and these options, the results that show up here, take you to lessons in the Learning Center. So the same thing as if you'd clicked here, except these lessons are particularly related to your search term for whatever you searched for up here. And then finally, you get a list of wiki articles. Wiki articles tend to be more about research methodology or place name kinds of things. And so, for instance, if I had searched maybe on England in the Help Center, in the Wiki section, I would expect to find articles that dealt with English research. And then the way you go to those articles is just to click on the article title. Now, what's interesting about this is that on this results page, they only show you 5 results in each section, but often there are more results. So if you want to see all the results, you'll want to use this menu up here at the top, just under the search box. So the default is to show you all the sections, but that doesn't mean all the articles. It means it shows you knowledge base, lesson, and wiki, but only 5 of each. If you want to see all the knowledge base articles, click articles, all the lessons, click lessons, all the wiki, click wiki. And then that will show you, if there's 15 of them, then you'll see 15 of those articles when you select the option that you're interested in. Okay, about FamilySearch partners. This has been a little confusing for people because sometimes the experience of moving from FamilySearch.org to a partner is so seamless that you might not realize that it's a different entity. But FamilySearch partner sites are not owned or controlled by FamilySearch, the organization, or even by the LDS Church. These are sites that are sometimes for pay. They're sometimes commercial sites like Ancestry, or sometimes they're sites just by somebody who loves family history, like the people who make TreeSeek, that give you free applications that you can use. So the partner sites may require a paid subscription. Again, Ancestry or Find My Past are good examples of those sites. There has been a wonderful development lately where LDS Church members, and by lately I mean maybe in the last couple years, LDS Church members may subscribe to some partner sites for free. Well, how do you tell which partner sites those are? You go to this URL, familysearch.org/partner access. When you go to that URL, you will see a page like this. And it's a list of all the FamilySearch partners that normally would charge for a subscription, but now are offering free subscriptions to LDS Church members. And you just click the Join for Free button of the one that you're interested in, and you you'll be walked through kind of a wizard that allows you to sign up for that service. If you're not familiar with any of these sites, I actually tried clicking on the logo and it didn't take me to the site. So if you're interested, like I didn't know about JanaeaNet, it was added just recently. And so if you're interested in finding out more about these sites before getting free access, just Google them and you'll get the information that you need to make a decision on whether to join that site or not, or to request free access. Okay, we are almost to the end of our webinar, and these are our last 2 bonus tips. If you're like me, I like things that save me time. And so FamilySearch's URLs are very well organized. And so they've made them very logical. And so here's just a list of the URLs that will quickly get you to certain parts of the website. I'm not sure how other browsers are, but Firefox, because that's the one I use most often, if you just start, like if I just start typing tree in the browser address bar, it will remember that I visited this and it will pop it up. And so instead of having to, mouse click through different options to get to tree, I just click in the address bar of the browser, I type the word tree or start typing it, and then FamilySearch.org tree shows up, and I can just select that as an option and just go straight to it. So the person page, again, a very straightforward URL. You just go familysearch.org/tree/person and then enter the PID of anybody that you want. A cool thing about that too, again with the functionality that I've observed in Firefox, is if you remember the name of a person whose page you have visited previously, you just start typing the name of the person and it shows up in the address bar, and it shows up in the list of possible pages that match, and then you can just click and go straight to that person. So the rest of these, I won't bother to read through all of those, but they're pretty straightforward, right? Search is just search, indexing is indexing. So these are easy ways to get to different places on the FamilySearch.org website. And then finally, How to give feedback to FamilySearch. I have been so impressed with FamilySearch, the organization, that they not only solicit feedback, but they really, really welcome it and they pay attention to it. I have been in a seminar. I remember going to a seminar and standing at the afterwards, the presenter was done and he was entertaining questions. And I walked up there because I wanted to talk to the presenter. Somebody was ahead of me in line, and that person was just kind of rude to the presenter and just maybe accusatory, as if that presenter had purposely made some aspect of FamilySearch to make their life miserable. What I observed just warmed my heart is that the FamilySearch presenter did not act rude in any way. They were kind and responsive and empathetic. And that's been my experience almost without exception in talking to people at FamilySearch, that they are just so open and willing to hear our feedback. So if you want to give feedback, go to the bottom of almost any FamilySearch page and click the feedback link. When you do that, you get this screen. And you've got two options. You can give a suggestion or a compliment or relate a problem. If you click suggestion or compliment, you get taken to the Get Satisfaction user forums. Get Satisfaction is a third party that offers forums, customer support forums, to any organization that wants to take advantage of that service, and FamilySearch has. So FamilySearch has a Get Satisfaction forum, and it's pretty much free reign there. You can bring up any suggestion or compliment that you have. As you might imagine, the suggestions are a lot more frequent than the compliments. So if you have a compliment, go ahead and give it. And then also on that site, I've noticed that the FamilySearch managers are there frequently paying attention to things and interacting with users there. So that is a great way to communicate with FamilySearch managers and also with other users. And so I would encourage you to be active on those forums and get to know other users, give your input, get to know the people at FamilySearch, and you'll see how very much they want to provide us with good services and how much they do take your feedback very seriously. If you click problem, it's actually the same thing as clicking that contact us on the help drop-down. You're able to send a message to FamilySearch support so that they can help you with whatever problem that you have. So just to give some feedback guidelines again, just because I've observed some pretty, there's no other way to say it, pretty rude posts on Get Satisfaction. And it's a credit to FamilySearch that they don't censor some of these posts, that just for rudeness at least. I mean, if posts get really abusive, I'm sure they do something about it. But just if people are annoyed and maybe uncomplimentary, FamilySearch lets you post stuff like that, and they try to respond in the best way they can. And a friend of mine who works at FamilySearch commented on how much it hurts, actually, when people assume that FamilySearch is trying on purpose to make their life miserable. I can assure you they're not. They are not trying to make anybody's life miserable, and they are very willing to listen to feedback. So start out by assuming good intent. Never, never, ever write in haste or anger. If you're feeling angry, shut down the browser, go have a smoothie or work out or say a prayer or something, but don't respond in haste or anger. Let it cool down, let your feelings subside, and then go back when you're feeling more calm and have had time to think through it. And sometimes, to be honest with you, when I do that, I come back and I start writing through some frustration. I realize that I was the one that was wrong and I don't need to make the post after all. It was actually user error, and I discover that through the act of writing. So don't ever write in haste or anger, and follow the golden rule. Write the kind of feedback that you would like to receive. If you were an employee at FamilySearch and you had been working on part of the website and it had a problem, how would you want somebody to tell you about that problem? And then write your feedback accordingly. So let's just do a summary of what we've talked about today. We talked about the difference between FamilySearch, the organization, and FamilySearch.org, the website, and hopefully that helps if you run across confusion about that in the future. We talked about the major sections of the Family Search website, which are Family Tree, the pedigree, Memories, where you upload artifacts about people's lives, such as photos and stories. We talked about the wonderful search capability on historical records, which is where your indexed records end up. We talked about doing indexing, plug for indexing. I would encourage everybody, even if it's only 15 minutes a week. If everybody did 15 minutes a week, imagine how much progress we would make. And then we talked about the temple page. And again, if you have questions that I couldn't address in this public webinar, please do feel free to send me an email. We talked about the various options under your account settings, including privacy settings. We talked about the other top menu options, especially the one that allows you to send messages and volunteer and see help, which I hope that going over help helped you to realize what a great resource that is if you didn't already. And then we talked about Family Search partners, and finally the little bonus tips at the end, those shortcut URLs and how to send feedback. So that concludes our webinar for today, everybody. This slide deck is available at this URL, and then the webinar, the recorded webinar, will be available in a day or two on the BYU Family History Library webinar site. I'm imagining since you're attending this webinar that most of you know where that site is, but if you don't, just Google it, and if you Google BYU FHL webinars, it comes right up. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time and attention today. And Braden, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have one question from Pat Harmon. She says, what if someone changes information that is sourced and is not cooperative to correspond? How does Family Search handle that situation?
You know what? That is a super question. Most users I found are cooperative and helpful, but there are definitely the occasional users that aren't. So if you've tried your best, I can tell you that if you contact support after just trying once to work with somebody, they are going to ask you to go back and work again with them, or at least try again. But if you've tried, say, 3 or 4 times and the person, like I had a friend that the person finally swore at them, that is not considered appropriate behavior, and Family Search will take action on things like that. Or if they just completely, if you've provided good evidence that information is correct and they don't have evidence and they just keep changing it despite your best efforts to talk to them, there's a report abuse button on the person page. It's over on the right hand side in that little narrow column. And so because you can reorder the sections of that column, it's not in the same place for everybody. So just look in that column until you find report abuse, and then click that button and you'll be walked through the process of reporting this inappropriate behavior. But again, do try as best you can to work with the person, and I'm sure you probably already have. So I'm saying this for the benefit of anybody who hasn't done that before. Just try your best to work with the person, give it more than one shot, and then if they are just repeatedly unwilling to cooperate, that's when you get Family Search involved. And if it gets bad enough, they will contact the person and they will explain to them that this is a cooperative tree and so forth, the importance of collaboration. If the person persists, they will disable the account. And that's left up to Family Search's discretion as to what is appropriate for handling the situation. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Okay, well that looks like those are all the questions. If you do have any questions, feel free to write those in now to the question box. We'd like to thank Kathryn for the wonderful presentation and all the work that she puts into these webinars. If you didn't get a chance to answer our polls at the beginning of the webinar, feel free to do so now. They're at the bottom of the screen. And we also have a spot for feedback. If you want to let us know what we can do to improve our webinars, what we could change. Also, if you have any suggestions for future topics, feel free to write those in as well into the feedback box. And we will be happy to try to implement as many of those as possible. This webinar has been recorded and will be posted onto our website, as well as onto our BYU Family History Library YouTube channel. And we encourage you to subscribe so you can receive notifications when all the videos are uploaded. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.